Today I'll compare 5 of the best. I'll break them down by weight, fit, cushioning and support, and ultimately which one's best depending on your needs. So 2 of the heavier options are the New Balance More V6 and the Brooks Ghost Max 3. Now weight is a really important factor because if you're walking for long periods of time on concrete, so a heavier shoe can fatigue your leg and your foot a little bit more, and if you have a slightly lighter, more nimble shoe, it can make it a bit easier to get around. However, often with the lighter shoes they come in with less cushioning underfoot, and that can play an important role in how you feel, and we're going to touch on cushioning later on. So we've got slightly lighter shoes in the New Balance 1080 V14 and in the Asics Gel-Kayano 32. We've got light moving all the way up to heavy, and that plays a major role if you're walking rather than standing for longer periods on concrete. Another important factor to consider is the fit of the shoe, as we all have different shaped feet, and having a different shaped foot can impact how your foot fits inside the shoe, and therefore the amount of comfort that you feel or any pressure points that you might feel in the shoe. So the widest of all 5 shoes that we have today is the New Balance More V6, and it's really enormous underneath the platform, so you've got loads of space moving from the heel all the way up to the forefoot. In contrast to that, you can see with the Bondi 9, we've got a much narrower fit on top of the shoe, so towards the toe box, so it narrows a lot more than what we see in the More V6. So if you have a broader forefoot, you may not enjoy that. If you have a wider forefoot, you might enjoy the More V6 and the Ghost Max 3 more. We've got normal fits within the Gel-Kayano 32 and the 1080 V14, while as I say we have a slightly narrower fit with a better midfoot lockdown. For those of you with a narrower foot walking on concrete, the Bondi 9 is an excellent option. So if you consider, if you're taking 10,000 steps, if you've got the wrong fit, it puts pressure points, can cause blisters, discomfort and unease, especially if you're walking or standing for long periods on concrete. Then it's important to consider the drop that we have in shoes. Now drop is the difference in the height of the shoe from the back to the front. So for instance, in the Gel-Kayano 32, it has the highest drop of all 5 shoes, so there's a 10mm difference from the back to the front of the shoe. So if you're standing for long periods of time, if you think you have a slight heel on the back, so a difference of 10mm from back to front, it can put excess pressure on the front of your foot. So if you have any sensitivity or noticed any discomfort on the front, that can be impacting it, and especially if you don't have a right fit in that toe box. While the benefit is if you have a higher drop, it takes the pressure off the back of your heel, especially off your Achilles tendon. It does not lengthen as much as if you have a lower drop shoe. So we've got a 10mm drop in the Asics Gel-Kayano, a 6mm drop in the 1080 V14 and the Brooks Ghost Max, a slightly lower drop of 5mm in the Bondi 9, and then a very low drop of 4mm within the New Balance More V6. So if you think a lower drop gives a nice even distribution of pressure across your foot, really important if you're standing for long periods of time on concrete, but it can put extra strain if you've got tight calves or a tight Achilles on that back of the ankle. So a really important factor. So far we've got the weight, we've got the drop and we've got the fit, and then let's talk about the all important cushioning. So people sometimes have a misinterpretation about cushioning. They often think the softer and the mushier, more cloud-like the cushioning, the better it is for standing or walking for long periods of time on hard surfaces like concrete, but that's not always the case. So when we're walking and moving, sometimes a really soft midsole or cushioning can make your muscles and your tendons work harder, because that's to try and stabilize your foot on top of this unstable platform. Whereas if you have a firmer base underneath your foot with the cushioning, therefore the foot may not have to work as hard. When you're standing for long periods of time, if you've got softer cushioning, it can be more comfortable. But again, if you think the arch of your foot is stabilizing your foot all the time while you stand, these muscles helping to stabilize the arch of your foot have to work hard as well. So there's a few factors to consider when we're thinking about the different types of cushioning in your foot. So first of all, let's talk about the More V6. It has one of the softest cushioning out of all 5 shoes. It also has some of the most amount of cushioning underneath your foot, with 44mm in the rear foot, 40 in the forefoot. So that's a huge amount of padding, huge amount of cushioning. It's not uber soft, so it's not like super squishy, but it's a nice balanced cushioning that you sink into it. And with that 4mm drop, it gives you a nice even distribution of cushioning all across your foot. Whereas a slightly firmer shoe is the Ghost Max 3, so it's a bit balanced overall. So while you sink into it, you don't sink as much as you do in the More V6, so it's a bit more responsive. You feel the end point a little bit sooner, and it's a bit more balanced overall. So if you're leaning left to right, moving from side to side, or picking things up, putting things down, this will give you a better even distribution of pressure across your foot, as the cushioning is a little bit firmer. Very similar type of cushioning in the Bondi 9, but it's a little bit bit softer with the supercritical foam in the Bondi 9 compared to the Ghost Max 3. And then we have a very plush, soft type of cushioning in the Gel-Kayano 32. So it's probably one of the softer of all 5 shoes. However, there's some key stability factors in the shoe that compensates for that softer cushioning, which I'll touch on in the next segment. But then finally in the 1080 V14 we have a relatively soft compound. The previous model of this, the V13, was the softest shoe that I've ever worn. So if you are interested in picking up the 1080, just keep in mind there's a big difference between version 13 and version 14, even though the version 13 will be cheaper at the moment. So this is a bit more balanced of a cushioning, and it's probably one of the most comfortable cushioning that I found for me. So it does not too soft, but it's also not too firm. It's a nice mix in between. And then as we move on to stability, well, we can have stability in shoes in multiple forms nowadays. It's not all about arch support. However, if you are interested in that kind of classic arch support, you'll find it in the Gel-Kayano 32. So it has a denser tab of cushioning on the inside of the shoe that helps to lift and elevate the arch so that it doesn't compress as much. That's when you're standing and when you're walking. It also has a broad-based support, sole flare, and really stiff heel counter. So this 4D guidance system really focuses on keeping your foot centered in the shoe as you move, whether that's standing or walking. So an excellent option perhaps for those of you who need some arch support if you've got a flatter flexible foot, or if you just enjoy that sensation of support under the arch of your foot, the Kayano 32 can be an excellent option. If you're looking for more of a stable neutral shoe, and that means a flat bed in the shoe, no arch support, but there's some stability features, then look no further than the Ghost Max 3. So it's got that relatively firm and balanced cushioning that we talked about, but it's got sidewalls on the outside and the inside of the heel. That's where the cushioning comes up, wraps around your foot, tries to help keep it centered in the shoe as you move. So it's a form of support, but it's less invasive, so you don't get like pressure points on the foot. It's got that broad-based support which helps to keep you centered in the shoe, and it's got a nice wide toe box. Another factor to keep in mind is that this is one of the most orthotic friendly shoes on the market. So it's got that nice stable base underneath your foot, but it's got ample space in the toe box for you to slip out the insert and put in your own custom orthotic if you're someone who wears one. Then with the New Balance More V6, we have lots of cushioning underfoot that's a little bit softer, and therefore inherently makes it a little bit more unstable because of the softness of the cushioning. It compensates slightly for that by having the broadest support underneath your foot that I've seen in any model so far. So if you want more of a stable neutral shoe with a broad platform, then the New Balance More V6 can be an excellent option for you. There are 5 excellent options. There's links for all of them in the description below if you want to check out the latest prices for them. If you have any questions on these 5 shoes or any other shoes that you're interested in but wondering if you can use them on concrete, please drop them in the comment section below. If you found the video interesting, then just like and share and subscribing does make a massive difference to the channel. Thank you very much for watching.